Uh, First of all, I want to apologize that we're running a little bit late, and want to start off by first thanking the person that sponsored this event. It's the MPP, Frank Cleese, and also thank you to the Sun for bringing this important story to my attention. So we are all gathered here today to honor the memory of Miss Dorothy Neal and her wish to help others by donating her organs and tissues. We are joined today by Mrs. Sue Frost, her brother, Rob Thompson, and her husband, Kevin Frost. On February 19th, 2010, Mrs. Neal was kept alive artificially so that her family can carry out her wishes to donate her precious gifts of life. Unfortunately, that did not happen, probably due to a lack of recovery resources. Her daughter, Sue, and her family have gone through a period of agonizing grief, not only from losing a mother-in-law, by the way, is she also a grandmother?
Yes.
And a grandmother, but also there's a big void in not being able to carry out Miss Dorothy Neal's wishes. Today, we are not here to point fingers or even blame. We are here in Miss Neal's memory to say, please don't let this happen again. Anyways. We are here today to bring comfort and hopefully closure to Mrs. Frost and her family, to honor Mrs. Neal for the true hero that she was. I personally was deeply moved by this story. I cannot even imagine the pain and suffering, the hurt, the anger that Mrs. Frost was feeling throughout this difficult time. And yet, throughout all this enduring time, her biggest concern was to make sure that the public was not going to get disheartened by this story and would continue to support organ and tissue donations. What an amazing woman you are.
Thank you.
I am sure her mom would be proud of her. As part of Step by Step's 8th campaign, SOS, the World Student Torch Relay, the torch will be lit in your mother's memory today at the McDonald statue, and that's at the south end of Queen's Park. This torch, which is beside a picture of Mrs. Dorothy Neal and Mrs. Sue Frost, was blessed by Pope John Paul II on September 5th, 2001. And since then, the torch has been carried literally by millions of people, and most of them have been kids. And they've been putting their power, their love into this torch. And today we have another reason why we should be carrying the torch. And I'll keep sharing this story throughout the rest of our journey. So now I give you Mrs. Sue Frost.
Thank you, George. I can still remember the first time my mom expressed her wishes to become an organ and tissue donor. It was in the early 80s, and we were discussing the success of bone marrow transplants for leukemia patients. This was a subject dear to us because we had lost our father to this disease in 1972 at the age of 31. During the course of our conversation, we talked about organ transplants and what was possible then and what may be possible in the future. True to her kind and loving nature, my mom made me promise that when her time came, any part of her that could be used to save or enhance another person's life should be used. She carried that wish through the remainder of her life, and each time her health card was renewed, she signed the organ donor card and had me carry it in my wallet. On the morning of February 19th, I stopped at my mom's house for a quick coffee and to firm up our plans for the following day. Less than a half hour after I returned home, I received a call that my mom had been rushed to Quinty Health Care. She was unresponsive. My brother and I immediately went to the hospital, and after what seemed like an eternity, we were given the news. She had suffered a massive brain bleed and would not recover. We were taken into her room, and as we sat by her bed holding her hands, watching the ventilator keep her alive, I knew she wasn't there. There was nothing I could do for her other than honor her wishes. Although I was completely distraught, I found the strength to inform the attending physician that my mom so very much wanted to be an organ donor. The next 36 hours was a whirlwind of medications, blood draws, doctors, nurses, and extreme emotions. I'm not going to lie, it was a very difficult time, and at one point I wanted to halt the procedures. The representative from Trillium, who I must say was wonderful, explained to me just how many people could benefit from my mother's tissues and organs. Then suddenly it was over. No explanation other than a phone call from Trillium the following morning and a letter 2 days later stating lack of recovery resources as the reason no organs or tissues were harvested. Hopefully, what happened to our family is rare, and I'm not looking to blame anyone, but if I may quote Trillium Gift of Life CEO Frank Markle, we know that even one missed tissue opportunity when family consent is obtained is too many. It's my understanding that over 1,700 people in Ontario are awaiting organ transplants. This number rises dramatically to over 4,000 throughout Canada. Organizations such as Step by Step, founded by George, a transplant recipient himself, are working hard to promote the importance of organ and tissue donations. We, as individuals, can help him by discussing our wishes with our families and ensuring that we have signed our donor cards. I've often been asked lately if I would endure the pain again and attempt to donate a loved one's organs and tissues, and my response is always absolutely. If a decision I make can save a life with a beating heart or allow someone to live free of dialysis or give a blind person an opportunity to see their child for the first time, my own grief is secondary. On behalf of my brother, myself, and our family, I want to thank you, George, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to light the torch of life in the memory of my mother. I also want to encourage everyone to register for organ donation. I know that we all have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.